Dorit Kemsley defends the shrine of her and PK in their house. When Dorit Kemsley invited the ladies over for a 4th of July barbecue on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills Season 14, Episode 12, Kyle Richards noticed that Dorit still had a shrine of photos with her estranged husband, Paul PK Kemsley, displayed on a table in front of her door. Kyle, who is also estranged from her husband, Mauricio Umansky, poked fun at Dorit for keeping the pictures out amid her separation, but the mom of two explained why she really hasn't taken them down during that RHOBH after show. Until Kyle mentioned it, it wasn't even a thought, Dorit said while sitting next to castmate and bestie Bazoma St. John. I live in the house with my children, and for my children, it's business as usual. As Dorit previously shared on the show, she and PK chose not to tell their children, Jagger and Phoenix Kemsley, about their separation right away. She also admitted that she doesn't often see the photos themselves. You know, I usually come in through the garage. I don't come in through the front door, so I don't see it. You know what I mean? It's not in my face, she said, though she acknowledged that there are other pictures in the home that are much more noticeable to her. Now, I do in my bedroom where I'm laying in bed, have a big giant blown-up framed picture of PK and I. And from my bed, it's like I'm looking right at it, Boz. I'm looking right at it. And recently, I was thinking, why the hell is that there? Did you take it down? Boz wondered. I haven't yet, she said, but I did think about it. Dorit feels more emotional when she sees the wedding photo in her bedroom than the table display of pictures from throughout their relationship. I mean, I've looked at it and I felt really sad, Dorit said about the bedroom picture. Kyle Richards reacts to Dorit Kemsley's shrine to PK Kemsley. Kyle, who pointed out the display in the first place, had an opinion about Dorit's photos. This was like when you go to a wedding and all the photos are there. Kyle, who admittedly still has photos of Mauricio hanging in her home, said on that RHOBH after show, "It looks like they had their wedding photo shoot, their engagement photo shoot. Where's the guest book? Do I sign?" It was very interesting considering how she just seems so done with PK. Kyle understands Dorit's hesitation to take down the pictures. I still have family photos up and photos of Mao and me together, she added. I, just last week, took the ones down next to my bed. I left the family ones up and put the ones of Mao and me in the drawer. It was time. Dorit Kemsley and the Shrine, a glimpse into the heart of a family on the edge. In the sun-drenched streets of Beverly Hills, where perfection often trumps authenticity, Dorit Kemsley's home stood as an oasis of memories, some beautiful, some bittersweet. The walls of her sprawling mansion told the story of a love once vibrant, now hanging on the edge of uncertainty. And nowhere was this more evident than in the quiet corner of her foyer, where a small shrine to her and PK Kemsley's relationship stood frozen in time. It was the 4th of July barbecue at Dorit's house, a gathering of close friends and family, laughter filling the air as fireworks sparkled in the distance. The guests milled around, enjoying the laid-back afternoon with grilled delicacies and flowing cocktails. But as always on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, there was no such thing as an uneventful moment. The seemingly innocent setting quickly became the backdrop for a discussion that would linger long after the burgers were gone and the fireworks had faded. It all started when Kyle Richards, Dorit's longtime friend and confidant, noticed something that Dorit hadn't even realized was still so obvious. As they walked through the front door, Kyle's eyes fell on a table in front of the entrance. It was lined with carefully framed pictures of Dorit and PK, looking radiant in happier times. The photos spanned the course of their marriage, each one a memory captured in vivid color, immortalized in beautiful frames. "Dorit," Kyle exclaimed, half joking, half serious. "You still have a shrine to you and PK right here?" Dorit paused, glancing over at the table. She hadn't given it much thought. After all, she lived in the house with her children, Jagger and Phoenix, and the space was as much theirs as it was hers. For her, the pictures weren't something she constantly reflected on. They were part of the furniture, part of the space, unnoticed and unmoving. But for Kyle, who was grappling with her own marital struggles, it seemed a bit out of place. "Are you really still keeping these out?" Kyle pushed, her voice thick with the kind of understanding that only someone going through a similar situation could fully grasp. "I haven't thought about it," Dorit replied, looking down at the photos with a furrowed brow. "I come in through the garage, not the front door, so it doesn't even register." She let out a small laugh. "I don't usually see them." The conversation could have ended there, but the presence of these photos, these carefully curated memories of love, lingered in the air. Kyle's pointed remarks hit closer to home than Dorit had initially realized. Despite her calm demeanor, there was an undeniable vulnerability in Dorit's words. She and PK had chosen to keep their separation a secret from their children for as long as they could, hoping to shield them from the complexities of adult relationships. "You know," Dorit continued, her voice a little softer now, "it's not like I look at these every day. But when I'm in my room, lying in bed, I see the wedding picture. That one really hits me." Her voice trailed off, the weight of the words hanging in the air. Dorit shifted in her seat, momentarily lost in the thought of her wedding day, when everything had felt so certain. The wedding photo was large, blown up, and hung on the wall in the room she shared with PK. She had grown so used to it that she could almost ignore it, but every so often, when her mind wandered, the sadness would creep in. "You haven't taken it down?" Bozoma St. John, another close friend of Dorit's, asked gently. She knew the ins and outs of relationships, having navigated her own highs and lows, and she was careful not to tread too heavily on Dorit's emotional landscape. "I haven't yet," Dorit admitted. "I've thought about it. But it feels like it's still part of the house, part of the life we built." She paused, then added with a half-smile, "It's just hard to take it down." Boz, who had been quiet up until this point, nodded knowingly. "It's not just a photo," she said. "It's a symbol, a piece of history, and history doesn't just go away." Dorit seemed to appreciate the sentiment, but she couldn't escape the uncomfortable truth. The photo in her bedroom was a reminder not just of PK, but of the life they had together, the life that was now in a state of flux. For Dorit, who had always prided herself on her strength and her ability to manage every aspect of her life with poise, the fact that her marriage was no longer business as usual was a difficult pill to swallow. As the afternoon sun dipped lower and the conversation turned toward other topics, Dorit found herself lost in thought. Her life had always been about creating a facade of perfection, impeccable style, endless events, and an enviable family life. But now, everything felt just a little bit off-kilter. Kyle, ever the perceptive friend, recognized the moment of quiet introspection and decided to offer some insight of her own. "I get it," she said, her voice softer now. "I still have pictures of Mauricio up around the house too, but the ones of just us, those I've had to move. It's just time, you know. It doesn't mean I don't still care. It just means that I'm moving forward." Dorit nodded. Kyle's words resonated deeply with her, even though part of her was still reluctant to take down the photos. They weren't just pictures. They were a testament to what had been, proof of a love that had, at least for a time, been real and strong. And the thought of removing them felt like erasing a part of herself. But as the day wore on and the barbecue continued, Dorit found herself distracted by the other parts of her life, the laughter of her children, the camaraderie of her friends. The shrine, the photos, they were just there. Her children didn't notice them, and her friends had long since grown accustomed to the display. It wasn't until Kyle brought it up that Dorit even questioned the significance of it all. And yet, it wasn't just about the photos. It was about what they represented, the shift in her reality. What was once a union filled with promises now felt like a series of snapshots frozen in time, reminders of something that had passed. Later that evening, as Dorit lay in bed, Staring at the large photograph of her and PK, she couldn't help but reflect on the words that had been spoken earlier. She thought about her children, Jagger with his endless curiosity, and Phoenix, whose bright smile had always been a balm for the soul. Dorit wanted to protect them, shield them from the complications of the adult world. But at the same time, she knew that they would eventually have to understand the truth about the changes in their family. With a sigh, Dorit sat up in bed, her mind racing. She didn't want to erase the past. She didn't want to forget the good times, the love they had shared. But she knew, in the quietest corners of her heart, that it might be time to let go, at least in some way. She glanced at the photo of PK once more, the man she had loved, and then she made a decision. Tomorrow, she would take it down.